and 2 other countries.
The Czech Republic and Italy.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to a special episode of Strongly Worded. I'm Sue O'Lear.
And I'm Johnny Hampton.
And we are recording on Saturday, the 24th of October. We wanted to bring a special episode featured or focused on the final presidential debate that took place on Thursday. But before we get started with that, I think Johnny and I would both like to say thank you to our listeners. We have had an amazing time watching the download numbers grow.
Yes, and we are in 14 different states.
And
2 different countries.
3 different countries, because this is a country.
Right, 3 different countries, United States included.
Johnny is an accountant by day and a numbers nerd, so he's kept me fully abreast of the stats as they
Yes. Hey, listen, 14 different states, 3 different countries. I don't know whoever it is in the Czech Republic and Italy.
But we love you. We appreciate you. Thank you very much for listening.
We love you.
We do indeed. So, as you know, funny that you might be watching from the other side of the world, as my kids used to call it when they were little, and seeing what's happening here in our country. But the election is currently taking place. Johnny just visited a polling place today.
Yes, I took my mom to early vote today. It was a long line.
Good.
But she got out of there quickly.
Yeah. Lots of flags and signs out front.
Lots of flags and signs out front.
Yep.
Lots of, Trump, Biden,
yep.
And of course all the local
all
elections.
The local. I have been seeing a lot of that local stuff. Our particular local election, I think local elections are probably about as nasty as the national election.
Oh, they're real nasty.
Yep.
This year they've been really negative.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know who to vote for mayor.
Honest to goodness, we don't have a choice. We do not have a good choice.
Every mayor.
What it's going to be? It's going to be a lesser of 2 evils vote. Maybe we should write someone in.
I should. Yes, I'm going to write myself in. No, I don't want that job.
I don't either. No way. Okay, so, but we definitely wanted to take a few minutes to go through and touch on this final debate between our presidential candidates. When we have twice live tweeted, and that's been fun. We didn't get thrown in Twitter jail this time.
No.
Which was cool, but I find it harder sometimes to pay attention to the substance of the debate when we're tweeting it.
Well, you're so fast. So just to let everyone know, we both tweet at the same time. And Sue is super fast with the tweets. Like, I take my time, and then sometimes I'll look at the timeline, like, she already has beaten me to what I was about to say.
And a couple of times we tweeted almost the same exact thing.
Yeah.
Word for word.
So it's like, I've been doing that for a while. I used to do it on Facebook, just on my personal timeline. So that's how I've been kind of watching these things for a while. So it's kind of like commonplace for me now to do that. But, the debate was cool.
The debate was cool.
Yeah.
Well, let's start from the beginning. So we've got a copy of the transcript in front of us. And really, I just want to start with the moderator. What did you think?
I thought the moderator was good. Miss Welker.
Miss Welker.
She was very good. Much better than Kristen Wallace. She kept them in line. She gave them what it seemed equal time. Tried to keep them to the questions that she asked. I thought she was a very strong moderator, and because of that, we got a more decent debate.
I mean, it really did almost seem like a debate, didn't it?
Yes.
Even if one or both of the candidates veered from the topic, there wasn't the talking over and the, quite the same style of argument. It was somewhat more substantive. Right.
I hope one day we'll actually get a moderator who won't accept any answer but the answer to the actual question. Because that annoys me.
It does.
If they ask you about, racial injustice and you talk about Hunter Biden's laptop or Donald Trump's taxes, that has nothing to do with the question.
Right.
So we didn't learn anything. Those moments kind of upset me.
Or we learned something, just not what the question sent out to teach us.
Right.
Yeah. So the one thing aside from the fly that I missed, though, is I wanted to feel the presence of the cut mic. I mean, I wanted to notice it.
You didn't notice it?
No, I really
I noticed it a couple of times.
Yeah?
Yeah, I noticed it for both of them a couple of times, but it wasn't...
I wanted it to be a character in the show. And I'm not kidding, because I feel like I've watched every year I watch all of them. Every time we go through this, I watch all of them, and we've been dying for it.
Right. I felt like a couple of times they were talking and they got to the end and the mic was cut, and you couldn't hear their last couple of words. But I think just the specter, like just the danger of your mic getting cut, made them talk less. They didn't want to be embarrassed.
Yeah.
And because of that, they kind of stuck to the rules.
That's a good observation for why that.
Yeah, so there wasn't 6 and 7, 8 minutes worth of talking or talking over anyone, because can you imagine how embarrassing it would have been for any of them to be mid-sentence and just get cut off?
Right.
Like a child.
like the Oscars when the music comes up.
Exactly.
Or the Gong Show. Maybe we needed a gong.
I mean,
or a hook.
Yeah, so I think just that rule just being there made them
behave themselves.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I also thought she did a really interesting, and it worked out pretty well, job of sort of off the cuff giving them time to respond.
Yes, 30 seconds here.
10 seconds there.
Exactly. Just not letting them, not that one person get the last word. Get equal time is what you need when you have a debate.
Yeah.
And if you can get that, then you can really get a sense of the candidates.
Mm-hmm. What did you think of the topics?
The topics were kind of repetitive, but I understand why. Because in the first debate, they didn't talk about anything. Because there was a bunch of yelling. And so, to me, the topics were repetitive. But I understand why they were. But, you have to talk about COVID-19. Me, as a black man, I like to talk about racial injustice, and we'll get to that. So those things, the environment, these are all important things, which should have been covered in the first debate.
Right.
I remember when you used to have a debate that was just domestic topics, then your next one was just foreign relations.
Right, and that was some of the talk leading into this one that Trump was so upset about. That we apparently made a break from tradition.
Yeah, well, that's his fault, though.
Yeah.
If he would have just shut up in the first debate, I had a boss a long time ago. I used to always, and we would have conference calls, and I used to always want to say everything. We were dealing with a...
Oh, you were that guy.
No, so we had... Side note here in America and Czech Republic and Italy. we had... I was back then working in credit and collections, and we had bought these magazines that were in California that they didn't really like us. And they were always blaming us for stuff. And I would always want to get everything off and tell them about themselves. And my boss said, hey, sometimes you just got to say a couple of things and let a person hang themselves. Talk for a minute and then shut up, Johnny. That's exactly what she said. Shut up, Johnny. And I've learned to do that over time. And if Trump would have did that in the first debate, who knows where the race would be now. And I think he did a little bit of that in this debate, which we'll get to. And I think it worked for him in some respects.
Yeah. I was watching some of the pre-shows, flipping the different channels to watch some of the pre-shows, and they were saying that historically the incumbent usually does the best job in the last one.
Always. I remember Obama and Mitt Romney, and I remember Barack Obama looked like he was just the Walking Dead, like a zombie in their first debate. It was like he had no energy at all. And in the second one, he was much better. I think, like I said, if Trump would have just shut up in the first one, he would be better off right now. But he couldn't help himself.
No, there were a few times he almost couldn't help himself. Even Thursday night,
I
thought, and I thought that Vice President Biden did a good job of just letting that unfold.
Yeah.
Even, he had some looks, which was fine, some of the but even that was a little toned down because you know how they say when somebody yells, the best thing to do for you is to get quieter?
Yes.
Just let them
go off.
All right, so our first topic was COVID-19, the actual question was, President Trump, the first question is for you. The country is heading into a dangerous new phase. More than 40,000 Americans are in the hospital tonight with COVID, including record numbers here in Tennessee. And since the two of you last shared a stage, 16,000 Americans have died. So please be specific. How would you lead the country during this next stage of the coronavirus crisis? 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Yeah, so if I were Trump, I would just forfeit the topic.
Right. I mean, I feel like this one you just got to fall on your sword.
Exactly. Like, I don't understand why when people do a bad job, they just don't say, my bad, I messed this up. I could respect you more for that. But don't tell me how great of a job you're doing when we're the leading country in the world with coronavirus deaths.
Right.
And what is the stat? We have like 4% of the world's population, but almost 25% of the deaths.
Right.
That means you did a poor job.
Mm-hmm. And he is not well versed in the pivot like some people are. I mean, Kamala Harris's pivot that I loved so much when they were talking about court packing, and she said, you want to talk about packing the court, let's talk about what's going on now. Trump is not good at that, but he tried, I think, when he interjected, because that first answer is when he interjected that Johnson & Johnson was going to have a vaccine by the end of the year, and that he became cured. You don't get cured.
I mean, to me, that's utter nonsense.
It's utter nonsense.
So you're watching this debate, and you're looking for some, substantive stuff. And you're not getting it because he's just going to lie.
Right.
And I get it. All politicians lie to a certain extent. I understand that 100%. But we all know there's not a person in this country who could possibly think that President Trump has done a good job with COVID-19.
Right.
We're running around with masks on still, right now.
We're not, and fighting about it.
Right. Other countries are further along than we are with way less resources. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make sense. So I would have fallen on my sword there and got out of this topic as fast as I could to get on to something else.
So I don't think he used the entire 2 minutes. So he did get out of there as fast as he could. And we know he's never going to fall on his sword about anything. And so the question went to Biden, right? How would you lead the country out of this crisis? And so Biden took a minute to comment on the deaths.
Right.
And then began talking about a plan.
And that's another thing. So I think in this election, what they are setting up, and it's working for Biden so far. Empathy from Biden versus this cult of personality, which is Trump. I don't think I've ever heard Trump refer to the well over 200,000 people that have died.
He, the whole time he was sick, didn't refer to his wife who was sick. And we didn't know at the time his son was sick, we inferred. But, I mean, the first time he's ever referenced a sick family member was when he was talking about how quickly his son recovered, almost before they even knew he had it.
Right. So Biden talks about, the 220,000, it's probably more now, that have died. He talks about the plan he might have. And you can agree or disagree with the plan, but it's an actual plan. We don't have any testing plan right now. There's nothing in place.
I mean, Trump's people are still talking about how we have more cases because we're doing too much testing. If we just stop testing,
I mean, that's ridiculous. I don't even understand how people like that. That to me, how do people believe that? So will we have more pregnant women if they test more? More people with the flu if we test more?
Exactly. What other condition does that logic fit?
It's not any logic. It's ridiculous.
Well, logic was an air quotes.
Yeah. I mean, it's illogical. Just because you're getting tested for something doesn't mean you're going to find it more if you're living the correct way and doing the right things.
Right. And that's the thing, too. I knew somebody who thought they might be sick, but didn't want to get tested. And, my question was, well, are you going to change your behavior anyway? Because it's not really about you once you get sick. It's about the people. I mean, it is about you, but it's also the people around you.
Right. You have to make sure that you're not spreading this thing.
Right.
And, I've long said one of my biggest statements on the United States is I love living here. I wouldn't live anywhere else. It's the greatest country in the world. But we have always, and we continue to lack empathy for one another.
It's so very true.
If we had empathy,
it's looked at as such a weakness.
Right. We don't have empathy for one another. And that's why we have 220-something thousand people dead.
And I feel like, and I don't want to alienate anybody who might be listening, who might be a pro-Trump individual, but I feel like even the folks who say, oh, but it was predicted we were going to lose 2,200,000 people. That's not even coming from an empathetic place. Like, there's such a callousness about it.
And that's if you did nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, again, so sometimes people have to look at things for themselves. They have to do some actual research. They have to read something that's not going to confirm their bias. That 2.2 million is if we did nothing.
Right.
If we didn't wear masks, if we didn't quarantine, if we did nothing, that many people will have died. And we did something, but not enough.
Mm-hmm. And we did it well past when we should have, and we did it without any transparency. We did it under this sort of cloud of being dishonest about what they already knew about the virus.
Right. So this topic is a loser for Trump and Pence. They cannot talk about it on the campaign trail. They have to move on to something else.
Right.
Because it's just...
Well, no, they're not going to not talk about it on the campaign trail. They're just going to spew the propaganda.
It's not working. And that's my point. Like, eventually, you should just not be talking about this at any of your rallies, period.
Right.
Period. I don't know who is advising him to talk about this. You cannot talk about this. 220,000 people have died. And you're the boss. So
I had that when I talked to my parents. I was at my mom and dad's a little while back, or no, maybe it was on the phone. And there's always that his rallies are so big and so full. Well, that's irresponsible to do that, and he's the guy in control. Oh, he's working so hard, tireless. He had 5 rallies in 3 days. Well, that's super irresponsible to be gathering all these people. Well, they have a choice to go or not go, but when you're the guy in control, you're the one that's supposed to know better and know those crowds of however many thousands of people should not be doing that.
Everybody has a choice, okay? But when you're a leader, you try to lead them to do the right thing.
Exactly.
If that is the point of leadership. Trying to show people a better way to do something. You don't just, they have a choice. Well, that's like my man from Rocky. If they die, they die. That's what we're doing.
Right.
Like that's not leadership.
It's a Rocky reference, ladies and gentlemen.
My man Drago.
If he dies, he dies. All right. So I think that we're both in agreement without going through every follow-up question. That the first topic went to the Biden camp.
Yeah, I mean, it goes there by default.
It goes there by default.
I don't care who you are. You can't think that the administration has done a good job. Period.
Or if you do,
full stop.
You're mistaken.
You're wrong. And I love you, and I want you to listen to the podcast. But if you think the administration has done a good job with COVID, you are incorrect.
# strongly worded pod. All right, so there was a quick mention about schools and reopening the schools, and I would just like to take this moment to plug that you're not just voting for a presidential candidate, you're voting to replace Betsy DeVos.
Oh, I think, we both have kids in school, and I feel so bad for the teachers and administrators, because they have had absolutely no guidance whatsoever.
None.
It has been...
The fact that she is not an educator, and we're absolutely from the ground up redefining what education means in this country right now. And the person who's supposed to be leading the charge has never been an educator.
This is the wild, wild west right now. And that was one of his first appointments. And
the only one that's been there from the beginning, right?
And even people that I know that voted for Trump don't like her.
Yeah.
I mean, so yes, when you vote for a president, you're also voting for cabinet members that are going to hopefully take this country forward and not leave it in neutral, which I think we've been at with climate change and education, actually. Mm-hmm. And I think we'll get to climate change later here.
All right, so the next topic from debate night was on national security. The moderator says, all right, we're going to move on to our next section, which is national security. How do I do that? And I do want to start with the security of our elections and some breaking news from overnight. Just last night, top intelligence officials confirmed again that both Russia and Iran are working to influence this election. Side note, we had a little touch of that Iranian influence here in Palm Coast.
Oh.
With those texts that went out.
Yeah.
We can come back to that. Both countries have obtained U.S. voter registration information, these officials say, and Iran sent... Here it is. And Iran sent intimidating messages to Florida voters. This question goes to you, Mr. Vice President. What would you do to put an end to this threat? So how do we do there?
Well, I've long thought that, President Trump doesn't care about this because it benefited him the first time around. He still hasn't, I don't think he's talked to Russia at all about what they've done. And it doesn't surprise me that Iran is doing this because he got out of the Iran deal. Mm-hmm. Like, you're going to get payback for that. Again, I think we know Trump has been a little soft when it comes to the security of our elections. If he can win, he doesn't care how. And that, goes way back to one of our earlier discussions about what type of businessman do you have? If it's, I think you're the one who said, if you got a businessman who just wants to get profits at all costs, that's probably not the guy you need. Mm-hmm. So I think Trump wants to win no matter what. So, hey, if Iran is sending a text saying, vote for me, not for Biden, why do I care about that? Mm-hmm. That's the stance he takes. Now, what he said in the debate, these are all different things, but your actions are what I'm focused on in this particular topic. And I don't know how well Joe Biden would do either. I'm not sure this is a great debate question, but they had to ask it. And what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I tend to, my thoughts tend to really echo yours right now. I am in agreement that Trump wants to win at all costs. When you're a man who's $400 in debt to $400 million, sorry.
Yeah.
Oopsie.
Put some zeros on that.
$400 million in debt to foreign lenders. And, you have to think there's some type of, I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist,
right.
But, there's reasons why people around the world would want him in power and reasons why he could look the other way at some of this stuff to...
And you can tell just by his answer, because his answer was, Joe, you got $3.5 million from Russia.
Classic deflection.
Like, that has nothing to do with what you would do.
Right.
So you're just going to talk about all these different conspiracy theories and all these things floating out there because you can't really say, I've done X, Y, and Z.
And it's very classic Trump to say, well, I'm not doing that. Like when they talked about Governor Whitmer and
right.
lock her up, and he kept saying, well, I didn't say that. Well, you didn't shut it down, and you didn't say it was inappropriate.
Right.
And so you are associated with that behavior. Well, just because, you're saying you don't know of or you can't imagine that this election interference could be happening, you're the man on top right now, and it should be your concern.
You're getting briefed every morning. You know what Russia did. It's not a hoax. Now, I have a different take on that. Biden had a pie in the sky answer. I'm going to make everybody take a pledge.
Right. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm sure that's going to work. Everyone's just going to, leave you alone because you're Joe Biden. But with Trump, he knows what happened. Mm-hmm. He's getting the right information. So for you to allow people to continue to say it was a hoax is just an irresponsible thing to do. Okay? And it's because you're benefiting from it.
Absolutely.
I wish, in some respects, I wish I could live like that. But I can't do that. I can't, just because something's benefiting me, if it's hurting someone else, I can't live like that. And so, like I said, they're setting this thing up as character, Biden's character versus Trump's character. Like, I buy into that because I'm a character-driven person. Your character means a lot to me. And in this topic, like I said, they went back and forth about Ukraine and what Joe Biden let happen when he was president, and you let them take Ukraine and all this other kind of stuff. But he never talked about what he would do to secure the elections. And that's what I mean when I'm in the beginning when we talked about just how they don't answer the questions.
Right. And all Trump is doing locally is trying to make it harder for people to vote. And
I actually talked about that with a Republican today.
You had a conversation with a Republican today?
Yes. I took my mom to vote, and there was a young lady out there who was, just one engine back of the legal place to be, and giving people, and Democrats are doing it too, by the way. I just didn't park by the Democrats. They give you, I forget what she was calling it.
That little card, that little cheat sheet.
Right, and it tells you, okay, vote for this person.
The
slate card, that's what she called it. And we had a conversation, and even she said, because like I said, the lines were long. We only have 3 early voting locations here. And not that we're some big county, but the lines, people have been waiting for an hour. For our little city, that's a long time. Mm-hmm. And she said,
it makes you wonder if there's going to be anybody left to vote on the 3rd.
I hope not, because that's when I'm going. So I was talking to her, and even she was saying she couldn't understand why they were making it so difficult to vote. Mm-hmm. So that's just not, everyone sees that. Mm-hmm. And if someone is confident about their chances to win, they won't make it harder for people to vote. So that's how I know that Trump and his people are a little nervous about the election, because they are so intent on making it difficult to vote.
Mm-hmm. And so early they began to plant the seeds that the vote was going to be, that the results were going to be somehow illegitimate.
Right. So when you ask him about election security, he's doing his best to, I'm trying to find the right phrase. Well, he's doing his best to undermine the election. Mm-hmm. So why would he care if someone else is doing it?
Right.
As long as it's to his benefit, he doesn't care.
Exactly. Conversation sort of went back to the topic of tax returns and looking at foreign entanglements.
And it's because I think I actually tweeted this on a strongly worded P Twitter account when he started to talk about the money that Joe Biden got from Ukraine, or the money he thinks he got. Why would you do that? That gives Joe Biden now, when she says, okay, would you like to respond? Why don't you show us your taxes? Where do you get your money from?
That's exactly what happened.
And now you got to talk 5 minutes about how you paid $750 in taxes? Which is, then he went on to say how he prepaid his taxes.
Oh my gosh. Okay, wait a minute. Right?
So listen, I'm an accountant.
Yes. Can you please handle this?
I actually have a friend on Facebook. He's a friend on Facebook. That's why I'll leave it. Who is also an accountant, who thinks he has to explain to me accountant things when I've already told him I was an accountant. In any event, yes, you can prepay your taxes. Most small businesses do this. There is no way someone like Donald Trump is prepaying millions in taxes with the loopholes available to him. There's just no way. Now, some people have never heard of prepaying taxes. It's actually a thing. You can do it quarterly. It's a thing.
Yeah,
okay?
I did that when I owned a small
right.
business.
When my
so
sister,
I wouldn't get hit with it.
Right. When my sister-in-law owned the daycare, I said, hey, this option is available to you if you feel like you're making too much money. Trump is not doing that.
No.
There's no way. Okay, now, and you haven't been under audit for 4 years. I mean, listen, I don't want to offend anybody, but if you believe this stuff, it's just because you want to believe it, and I'm okay with that. But just don't try to convince me of it. Mm-hmm. Don't post on my timeline that's a possibility, because it isn't.
You know, I have a friend from childhood, and, you know, we reconnected on Facebook, as you do. Mm-hmm. And I love and adore her, Republican as she may be. We shared a very special time in our life, you know, little girls across the street from each other, friends, whatever. And, you know, today she shared one of those posts that goes deeply in depth to how immoral the Bidens are. And I said, until you post something that also speaks to Trump's character in the same way, it's meaningless, right? I mean,
I have a phrase for that I like: selective outrage.
Selective outrage.
So you want to be mad at what you perceive Biden is doing? Like, let's just say this, okay? There's no politicians that are clean.
Right.
We know the game. Like, so the question is, how dirty do you want to be?
Right. And really my point with her was, and I said it, was that believe in the ideals of the Republican Party all you want to. What's left of it, if anything's left of it, whatever. But believe in those things, but let's not debate morality and ethics between these two families.
There is no debate. So,
especially when half of the people involved in what should be a debate refuse to see anything in the mirror, refuse to see anything. I mean, Donald Trump is not a godly man.
No, apparently he's a non-denominational Christian. I can't even say it without laughing.
He doesn't even know how.
Apparently he's a non-denominational Christian. That was a quote from.
Okay.
So listen.
Look, all right. You can have that one. That's fine.
I am of the mindset that you can vote for who you want to vote for. If you say you like a person, just like the person. But don't try to, don't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining.
Exactly.
Do not tell me that Biden is anywhere close to the corruption of Donald Trump. He is not. The proof is out there. They've had all kind of committee hearings on these things.
Right.
All you have to do is do your research. That's all you have to do. There's a million reasons not to like Joe Biden, by the way.
Sure.
A million.
He wasn't my 10th choice.
Like a million reasons, okay? 1994 crime bill. He's been around a long time. Trump hit on some of that, which is great. Mm-hmm. But the character of the man is not one of them. I'm sorry, it's just not, in my opinion.
And even if it were, we've seen him in action. We've seen him surround himself with smart people who are going to help him get the job done.
Yes.
And that's what I've said over and over. He wasn't even my 10th choice, but I'm replacing a whole cabinet with him. I am, future Supreme Court justices, perhaps. A whole wealth of other people is who I'm casting a vote for.
Can I get a side note on the Supreme Court?
You can get a side note on the Supreme Court.
So you and I have actually been talking about this since the first debate.
Indeed.
And I'm of the mindset that Joe Biden is going to pack the court. It's the reason he hasn't answered. But someone posted something on Twitter the other day that I read that really struck me. How the media talks in partisan terms. And everyone always says that the media is super liberal. Everyone says that. But the media always says packing the court instead of expanding the court. So when you say expanding the court, it takes on a whole different connotation than court packing. So I think he is going to expand the court. And I think he's going to try to find people who are not affiliated with any political groups and who actually look at the law.
Actual non-partisan
I think
justices.
And it's been a long while since that's happened. There's not any one party to blame for that, so I'm not going to say the Republicans got lucky, so this is what it is. But I think we need to start saying expanding the court instead of packing the court.
So what has gone on in the lower courts with these appointments? Is that packing or expanding? That would be packing.
I think it's packing because what you're doing is you're not looking for anyone who has A ratings, because from what I understand, some of these people have Fs. Mm-hmm. You're looking for ideology.
Right.
And you're looking to push the country in a certain ideological way. And you don't care how they interpret the law. Mm-hmm. You want them to interpret the law the way you see the law.
Right.
And that's not what the court system was designed for.
Mm-hmm. And one thing that was just so heartbreaking to me, just even in the last couple of years, is that we have activist judges.
Yeah, so we don't want that.
We don't want that.
So,
good side note, we're going to come back to that in another episode, I think.
Yeah, we're going to have to soon, yeah.
Yep. Okay, so then that was national security. Who gets the check mark? Who gets the point on national security?
I kind of think it's like a push, because I don't think Joe Biden said anything that made me think he was going to secure anything. And Trump just punted because he just attacked. But he saw that as an opportunity to get in some of his attacks on the Ukraine and stuff like that.
Right.
And
a couple of them landed.
Yeah. I think so.
All right. So let's move on to American families and the economy. One of the issues that's most important to them is health care, as you both know. Today, there was a key vote on new Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett, and health care is at the center of her confirmation fight. Over 20 million Americans get their health insurance through the Affordable Care Act. It's headed to the Supreme Court, and your administration, Mr. President, is advocating for the court to overturn it. If the Supreme Court does overturn the law, those 20 million Americans could lose their health insurance almost overnight. So what would you do if those people have their health insurance taken away?
This is another one.
We already know where the check mark goes for this one.
We'll
talk about it anyway.
Yeah, health insurance and COVID, Trump can't speak on.
He absolutely cannot speak
on. He's been promising a plan since 2016. We don't have one. Right. I mean, that's it. I mean, I don't. You want to take away the individual mandate, what you've done. Fine. You want to get rid of Obamacare during a pandemic and take away pre-existing conditions. It makes no sense to me. But if you're going to do that, have something ready to go, and you don't.
And why do you think that is?
Why doesn't he have anything ready to go?
Yeah.
I don't think he cares about health insurance. I think if the plan was not known as Obamacare, he'd leave it alone. I believe he hates Obama. Period. Full stop. And anything that Obama did, he wants to undo, including that. He has no interest in a new plan. If he did, we would have one. It's been 4 years. The first 2 years you had control of the House and the Senate. If you wanted to push through an actual plan, you could have done so. You couldn't. Because when you tried to, Republicans voted against it. John McCain didn't like Obamacare. He didn't like it. He voted against it. So you never had a plan. Your only objective there is to get rid of something with the name of a person you don't like. Period. So this can't go to Trump. He doesn't have a plan.
Right.
Like that's the thing in these kind of elections. I think where Trump has stumbled is in 2016 he didn't have to run on any record. Mm-hmm. He was this new guy, and he was new to politics. Hillary Clinton had a record. She had to defend it, and a lot of people didn't like it. So she lost. Now you have a record. You have 4 years in office. And in those 4 years, 220,000 people have died. You got rid of the individual mandate. You have no health plan, no infrastructure plan, no real energy plan, no plan to secure our elections.
But he's got a really cool list of nicknames he calls people.
I mean,
AOC +3.
Like I don't even know what that means. I'm
it's
not
the squad.
Oh, so he's talking about Omar. Oh, is that what that is?
Yes.
They said she's going to make shirts now that say AOC plus me.
I love it. I would wear one.
She's looking for designers. I saw her tweet it. Yeah, so yeah, I have to remind people that AOC is not running for president. Neither is Hunter Biden or Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama. Mm-hmm. Just want to put that out there.
Yep. So even though we know that the point already goes to Biden, just to throw it out there, what do you think about Biden care, Obamacare with a public option?
You know, I've long talked about healthcare, and I think you have to do, like, I'm not a fan of Obamacare, full disclosure. I actually had it even, and I'm not a fan because I work in accounting / HR, and the compliance for Obamacare with businesses is incredibly, it's a lot. So I don't think it was the best plan, but I think with most social plans over the history of our country, you get something in and you hope that we tweak it along the way. I think that was his hope, and it didn't happen because they ended up losing the House and the Senate. I like the public option, but I think you go all in or all out. So I think you just do all public, and you find a way to deal with these private health insurance companies, or you don't. So I don't know how Obamacare with a public option looks. I'm all for, I guess I'm all for socialized medicine.
Mm-hmm. I was just gonna say pretty much the same thing. I think I am. I mean, and if I have to pay some more in taxes so that we can all do what we have to do.
You see, this is another thing. Like, it's so nuanced. Debates are nuanced, so you can't get all these things in. And they used to always hit Bernie Sanders with that. You're paying more in taxes. Well, listen. Right now, I pay $486 a pay period for insurance.
That goes away.
It's almost $1,000 a month.
That goes away.
Okay,
and even if some of that money then gets funneled into a tax bill somewhere, you're still coming out ahead and keeping everybody healthy.
So if I don't have to pay that $1,000, and then you come to me and say, "Hey, Johnny, we're going to take out $100 a paycheck for socialized medicine," that's $200.
I'm saving money.
I'm saving $800. That is not a tax increase for me.
Right.
And people don't seem to get that.
Well, yeah, I mean, so I guess I walked into that by calling it save more in taxes. But what I meant was I'm not paying those monthly premiums.
You are getting money in your pocket.
I'm coming out ahead, really.
Right. And
I can afford to go to the doctor. I say, Joe and I have the best insurance we can't afford to use. Walmart coverage is great, but we can't afford it. So, we have to have the biggest deductible, so I still can't go
and that's
do
what
I want to do.
That's what I always say. People always say, "Oh, you have a $10,000 deductible. Why don't you get the $5,000? You think I got $5,000 lying around?"
Right. I mean, it doesn't really matter. One way or another, I still can't go.
Exactly. I'm screwed if I need surgery, regardless.
Yep.
So, no, I think, a plan is better than no plan. So in my opinion, at least Biden has a plan.
And I really think it was probably a fully public option that weeded out other Democratic candidates in the primaries.
Yes. Nobody seems to have the appetite for that. And that's what Biden keeps saying, I won. And I know, Trump, he said to Trump, you want to run against all these other people. You're running against me. Right. Biden has never been one for the fully public option. It's one of the reasons of many that Obama chose him as the running mate, because Obama didn't want the fully public option. If you remember, when he was in the primary against Hillary, she wanted the full public option and he did not.
Right.
Which is kind of why, for a little while, I liked her more. So, yeah, I mean, a plan is better than no plan. Mm-hmm. So, we can talk about all the zingers back and forth. Biden has a health care plan. Trump does not. The Strongly Worded podcast is brought to you by the good folks at the Flagler County Basketball Program. For high-quality, community-based youth basketball, you don't have to look any further than the Flagler County Hurricanes. Open to young people 8 through 18. Season starts November 7th. Sign up now at flaglerhurricanes.com. It's the first technical difficulty we've had in 3 weeks.
So we just had a really riveting conversation about minimum wage going to $15 an hour and those types of decisions. And it was probably among the smartest podcasting Johnny and I have ever done. And I just looked over and realized we weren't recording.
And I got to tell you, it was great.
If we're international now, that nugget, that piece of conversation would have lit up the globe.
We could have been in Uzbekistan.
Could have been in Djibouti.
Oh, man.
Okay, so I don't know that we can recreate the whole thing.
But here's what we were saying, though, while we weren't being recorded. We were talking about moving along in the debate. I had a couple of moments that I thought were really good for a presidential debate. One of those moments was when they were talking about the economy and they were talking about the $15 minimum wage. And I felt like, for the first time, Trump gave an answer befitting of someone running for office. It was the best answer I've ever seen him give in any of his debates ever, in which he talked about how he thought $15 an hour should be a states' right issue. I've said that at times, but I have people who are smarter than me who think I'm wrong about that, who think the more money you put in people's pockets, the more they spend, the economy grows. I've been an accountant for small businesses, and I don't know if those small businesses can sustain $15 an hour minimum wage for all their employees. And I wonder, for instance, if you don't like Carrabba's or Olive Garden, and you go to, your local Italian spot that's been there 20 years, he uses his mom's spaghetti sauce, can he pay $15 an hour? I don't know.
And I was saying that something has to be done about the minimum wage because of the years and years that the cost of living has increased and the minimum wage has not. Like, we've got some catch up to do. And I threw out the question then, do we determine that by the state? Do we determine that at a national level? Do we determine that by the size of the company or the revenue of the company? How do we do that? Because we both agreed that what minimum wage should provide is a life where people aren't having to work 2 and 3 jobs to live.
You should work one job and be able to pay rent, eat, and keep your lights on.
That was my line.
I stole it. I stole it.
I said that.
No one's
last time.
I don't know. No one heard it too.
If it's not recorded, did it really happen?
Yes, that was Sue's line. She said, and I agree. You should work one job and be able to pay rent in the state you live in and buy groceries and keep your lights on. That's not talking about extra stuff like cable and all this kind of stuff. Those are luxury items, unfortunately. But you should be able to do that. And we both know people that are working 2 and 3 jobs. Yeah. Here,
and still hardly bringing it all together.
Exactly, because one job is paying $7 or $8 an hour, and it's not enough.
No, it's not. One of the reasons why I didn't work for a while is because all I would be working for is the cost of daycare. after having been out of the workforce for a while.
You hear that so much. I've been at jobs where people have quit because of that.
Right.
They weren't making enough, and they just said, hey, I'm not, I can stay home and do this if all my money's going out.
And people would say to me, oh, it's such a luxury to be home with your kids. And I would think to myself, what the heck is luxurious about having 2 pennies left over at the end of every month, if that, kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul, because
I think they assume, people
assume you can afford it.
Yes, exactly. That's what I was going to say. People assume that when you're a stay-at-home parent, that you're doing it because the other person is making so much money, right, you can stay home. They don't understand what goes into that decision.
Right. And then in our previous unrecorded conversation, I said there are probably a lot of entities that do not want to see a big increase in minimum wage, and perhaps maybe that's part of the reason why it hasn't increased over time. But then we borrow less.
Yeah, and I never thought about that. Never crossed my mind.
See, I said something smart.
You sound like Fredo over there. I'm smart. Yeah, so I thought that gave voters a clear view, because everyone has an ideology on that. Some people strongly believe $15 an hour. Other people believe, you gotta, pull yourself up from your bootstraps. Do what you can. Right. And so I think
my dad would say it's going to put people out of business. That employers have to be able to make some money.
He might be right. Mm-hmm. And that's the internal conflict in me, right? So, I'm a degreed accountant now, and I can see P&Ls, and I understand all that. I understand business a little bit, I think, and he might be right in some respects. But what do they do? I can't imagine they just raise the minimum wage and do nothing for small businesses.
Right.
What's the counter to the $15 minimum wage? Do they just leave businesses hanging out there? I don't know. Yeah.
Joseph, my son, says that government, or he actually says they,
mm-hmm.
I don't know exactly who he means, wants to keep Americans at work, like overworked and sick and dumb, because then government can do what it wants and we're too busy to protest it.
We need to have him on the podcast because, I've always said, I remember having a conversation with a friend of mine, and we were talking about welfare once. And he was lamenting the fact that there were so many people on welfare who shouldn't be, was getting away with it. And I said to him, that's how the government wants it. He said, well, what do you mean? What do you mean, John? He knows who he is now. And I said, if the government can find bin Laden in a cave in the middle of Afghanistan, they can find out who is milking welfare. They do what they want to do. I've long thought that. They can do whatever they want. They find the money for what they want to find the money for.
Yep.
So Joseph is right.
He is. That's my boy, right there. All right. So that was the economy, and I know that there are some other points you want to touch on. Do we want to touch on immigration?
Oh, that's another thing where I think Trump won, but he won because the argument was more nuanced. So they were talking about.
You think Trump won that one?
Yes, because here's the thing. No, well, I think he created enough doubt for people. So Joe Biden was really getting on him, especially when you talk about the kids being taken from their parents and Trump saying good, which I seem to have gotten lost. But it is true that the cages were built by Obama and Biden. But I'm going to probably blow a lot of people's minds with this who didn't like President Obama and think Trump is stronger on immigration, the person who deported the most people in the history of our country, the president who did the most, President Barack Obama. A lot of people don't realize that. And so, he was asking, Joe, who built the cages? Joe, who built the cages? They built the cages to detain people, but they built them for families. Taking children and separating them from their parents was not an Obama policy. And see, that's nuanced, right? Mm-hmm. In 2 minutes, you can't get that done. So when he says, Joe, who built the cages, his supporters, and maybe even some people on the fence, will think that President Obama and them were doing the same thing, but they were not. And, you voted for a guy who is probably less tough than President Obama. So I thought that was a good moment when he said, who built the cages, who built the cages. A terrible moment, though, in the debate was when Joe Biden was talking about, and not necessarily immigration. So, he was on him about immigration and the Dreamers and all that. He really hit him hard. He had a moment where he talked about Trump and him. It's not about my family or his family. It's about your family.
Yep. I was going to go to that soundbite.
And he's right. And Trump basically mocked him. And I remember I posted on my Facebook, and my aunt hated it. She was like, "What?" Because I said Trump is basically saying, "Fuck your family." Mm-hmm. He doesn't care.
Yeah.
He can't even understand that kind of empathy. He thinks that's a political thing, which it could be. Obviously, it's a calculated thing. I'm sure in debate prep.
But he doesn't believe in that because empathy is weakness to him. Right.
So when he says that to me, I'm like, oh, that's great. But Trump supporters are like, oh, that's just politics. Because you guys, some of you guys lack empathy. Like I said, the country as a whole lacks empathy. Mm-hmm. It's not one party. The country as a whole lacks empathy. And so that part of the debate also struck a chord with me, because I don't care about Hunter. I don't care about Ivanka, Jared Kushner. None of those dudes are running for president. I only care about what Biden and Trump have to say.
Mm-hmm. What about the conversation about catch and release? Any thoughts on
that? I mean, immigrate, so complicated, right? I have, like I said, there's people smarter than me who know more about this. What do you think about that? What do you think about catch and release?
Me? You're asking me?
You, Sue.
I'm sitting back, stretch. I moderate these conversations.
Well, you know what? So listen, of 200-something people that have listened to our podcast, I asked people for feedback. Mm-hmm. And some of that feedback has been they want Sue to talk more. And Johnny to talk less.
Really?
Yes.
I can't imagine that.
Feedback. Some of that feedback was from family members of mine. What do you think about?
I don't know a lot about catch and release, and that's
Yeah. So like they were getting down the weeds. Mm-hmm. Even I haven't done a lot of research on that and those kind of things, but I do know in the aftermaths of the debate, they were talking about. And listen, I'm not trying to stick up for Trump, the people who are liberals listening to this. But they were talking about kids who were separated from their parents and how sometimes they try to return the kids. Mm-hmm. And the parents say, no, leave them in America. Yeah. They try not to be found. Yeah. Now, I'm sure that's not the majority, but that is an issue. Mm-hmm. But he didn't articulate that issue.
Well, why do they do that? Because they want their kid to have a better life.
Right.
The reason why they wanted to be here in the first place.
I mean,
it's not some callous, they just don't care, want to leave their kids to be a drain on our resources.
I'm all for immigration, but it's way past time that our senators, congressmen can come up with a way for it to be done. The right way, a legal way, a way that doesn't hurt families, that we don't have to hurt families. I don't know what the issue is. I don't know. Our politics is a little bit out of hand, but that's another discussion for another day.
So what Trump said about it is it doesn't matter because he terminated it, so we don't have to worry about it. in terms of catch and release. All right, listeners, I will read up. Who got the point on immigration? And it was actually the shortest section in the debate because I think we've had so much of it leading up to Thursday night.
Trump has done an awful job, so I got to judge him on his record.
Right.
So, like, I'll give it to Biden just because Trump has an awful record there. Like, I mean, he just...
And was Biden and Obama and Biden's record better?
I mean...
And again, that's another question. I ask a question when I don't know the answer sometimes.
They deported more people. There wasn't as much scandal.
Well, there wasn't as much scandal kind of across the board.
Yeah, I mean, they weren't xenophobic about it. They didn't block Muslims from entering our country. See, this is all on his record now.
Right.
So, like, unfortunately for Trump, when I'm watching this debate, I'm thinking about your record, too. Mm-hmm. And so I'd rather have Biden handling it. That's just me, though. Other people will disagree, so I would give it to him.
I'm good giving the point to Biden for that.
Yeah.
Okay, on race in America.
Oh, please.
We've talked about this
at
length in a previous episode also, so we don't have to give it.
So I give the point to Biden, and here's the reason why. I am fully aware that Joe Biden wrote the 1994 crime bill. I also know what's in the bill. I know about banning assault weapons. I know about the defense of women. I know all about that. But when you ask someone to speak to a black family, and Biden goes and shows you he understands at least a little about what it's like to talk to a black man and say, hey, keep your hands attended to, don't get shot by these police officers. And Trump doesn't even make the attempt and then says, I'm the least racist person in this room, which means I don't know his grasp of English. I'm not the best talker. But if you're the least racist person, that means you still could be a little racist. You're just not as racist as this other dude. Instead of just saying, I'm not a racist. Mm-hmm. The words you choose, they matter. So for me, I trust Biden more on issues of race. The 1994 crime bill is a whole other podcast in itself to talk about who wrote it, what was in it, what kind of people voted for it, including the entirety of the Black Caucus at the time. That's a fact. So that's a whole other thing. But no, on issues of race, no one can tell me Trump is better at it, period.
Now, really the big question of that section was, did Trump refer to himself as Abraham Lincoln?
He didn't even get it, like when Biden was making the joke.
Right.
Like, here's the thing. Oh man, I'm so glad
he doesn't have the ability to discern humor like that.
I'm so glad you brought this up. He keeps saying he's done more for black people than any other president, with the exception of Abraham Lincoln. And I keep telling people, Lyndon B. Johnson would like a word. He signed the Civil Rights Act.
Right.
What are we talking? And again, I've said in the past that Trump saying stuff like this has given people the right to say stuff as well. And I gotta be honest with you, I am so tired of people who are not of color telling me what presidents have done for me.
I mean, I really think that's an excellent point, and I'm not trying to defy the feedback of America and the world to keep handing you the mic on this, but you are the one I think more qualified to speak on this topic, and it's come up.
I keep seeing people, and a lot of times it's white men and women telling me what it is to be black in America. I don't know how they know. I got into an argument. I got into an argument with
Here we go.
A couple of people. One was a woman who said that Trump has done more for black people. She posted on another friend of mine's post, commented. And I asked, which one of your black friends told you that Trump has done more for them? Now, I got friends I got a friend that's black, started her business under Trump, so she thinks he's done a lot. Mm-hmm. She's black. Sorry, I knocked on the table. I hope you can get that out. She's black, though. Mm-hmm. This woman did not tell me she had any friends. She said she had a granddaughter who was mixed, and they don't believe in protesting social justice. And I asked, what does that have to do with Trump doing things for black people? No answer.
Crickets.
So then another conversation, a friend of mine during the debate didn't like Trump's answer. This guy posted something that supposedly Joe Biden said that Facebook then immediately said, fact-checked and said it wasn't true. So I asked him, what made him the authority on being black in America as a white man?
I know a black guy.
And he said, well, my son-in-law is black and my grandchildren are black. I said, cool. They'll be the authority then. Then he said, oh, so I'll be dealing with it. And I said to him, no. You won't be dealing with anything because you're a white man. Your son-in-law will be dealing with it. Your grandkids will be dealing with it, but you won't. So again, has your son-in-law told you Trump did more for him? Has your grandkids told you that? Who is giving you this information? And what I hate the most is when people are telling you how much Trump has done for black people. And then what I like to do is I go, look at their friends list if it's available, because sometimes you can hide it on social media. And then you see they have 545 friends and 544 of them are white people. So you're not even dealing with black people to know this. Stop just listening to talking points of these politicians. Trump has not done more for black people than any other president. Yes, they passed a criminal reform law that was written, the bones of it was written during the last administration. They asked Biden why he didn't get it done. Well, Mitch McConnell said during Obama's first term he wanted to make him a first one-term president. He didn't want to pass anything. We've not forgotten that. But again, in a debate, you can't get that in 2 minutes. But please, people across the country, stop telling me how it is to be black. That's all I ask.
I mean, unless you're black. And
then that's a conversation.
On the show.
Yeah, I have conversations with I got a couple of friends. Shout out to Quinn. He knows who he is. He likes some of the stuff Trump does. Not all. And we have conversations about it. And we have conversations about Biden. And we have, but he's a black man. He has the experience. I don't try to tell people how it is to be white in America. I don't know what that is.
Well, let me tell you.
So,
and really, I don't ever consider it my job to talk about your experience. I consider it my job to call out other white people when they're getting it wrong. I mean, I get it wrong sometimes too, but we
all get it wrong. How could you be so, you forgot about the Civil Rights Act? This dude signed a bill that made me be able to go into the bathroom the same place as you.
Right.
It's a pretty big deal.
He's not a smart man. All right, we're going long on this, so I'm gonna move us because we have had conversation at length.
Yes.
In a previous episode, and I know that you have a point in this next section that you wanted to make earlier when I screwed up the recording, and the next section was climate change.
Oh yeah, so they had a whole conversation about climate change. The AOC +3, but I think this also led into Joe Biden making perhaps his biggest flub, where he said he was going to move Texas away from oil. Again, some of these points can't be made in a debate.
Right.
Because what he's really trying to say is he's going to move those oil jobs into clean energy jobs. That doesn't come across in the 2 minutes. So it gives Trump the opportunity to say, Texas, do you hear that? Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. You're going to get rid of the oil industry? How do you feel about that, Texas? Because Texas is supposed to be close right now. I thought that was a big mistake by Joe Biden because, like I said, in a debate, that's more when you give a speech at a rally where someone can cover it and you can be more nuanced. You can't do that in 2 minutes.
Absolutely not. And I agree with you on this point. I thought it was I almost wondered if he even meant to say it.
Oh, he meant to say it. He meant to say it because it's what he wants to do. But I just don't think
that can't be the way he practiced it.
No way. Oh, no. In debate prep, did they?
Right.
No, they probably told him to stay away from that because, like I said, you can't articulate that clearly, and you can't detail your plan 2 minutes here, 30 seconds there.
Right.
And I understood what he meant, but if I'm an oil worker in Texas right now and I'm thinking about voting for Biden, I may think again now.
Right. Yeah, I kind of likened it to Trump throwing out that Johnson & Johnson, who I believe stopped work on the vaccine, was going to have one to us by Christmas.
Right.
That it kind of got out there and he couldn't get it back because that couldn't have been the way.
No.
But the truth of the matter is, I fully believe that a Biden administration actually believes in climate change.
Yeah, I mean, I don't...
Believes that issues dealing with climate are real and important and, will move us in a positive direction in that way. Trump
is a science denier. And that's why 220,000 people... I mean, we can go... I mean, his ideology on science is why we haven't made any movement on climate change. And it's why 220,000 people are dead from COVID.
Like, to me, and forgive me, I'm not trying. I mean, I am trying to be flip because that's kind of what I do. But we have a guy in charge who doesn't believe in climate change, but now we have Space Force.
I'm not even. I can't.
You can.
I mean, I don't even. like I said a couple of minutes ago. They find money for what they want to.
They find money for what they want to. So
you're telling me about a Space Force, but you're telling me we don't have money for another COVID Relief Act. Like, what are we doing?
Right.
Like, you want to send? You trying to find Luke Skywalker? What's going on? I don't. That leaves me speechless. So, which is rare. My wife would tell you.
All right, so this is our special edition on the debate. So I guess the final question is, who won?
I think Biden won the debate, and here's why. I think in a debate, what I want to hear, and this is my scorecard, I want to hear what your plans are for the next 4 years. And I have not heard Trump detail any plans for the next 4 years. So just off that, he wins for me. And I tell people, you may not agree with Biden's plan, but he has one.
Right. I don't know that I believe Biden won. I mean, Biden's got my vote, but I don't think that Trump necessarily has to have, I mean, we know this, he doesn't have to have a plan to win in the eyes of his supporters. What he needed to do, I think, to be strong in the debate, to have a strong finish in this debate is what he did. He didn't interrupt. He calmed down.
No, see, I can't let that. It
was a performance.
I can't let that. I'm sorry to cut you, but I can't let that fly. Like, we can't lower expectations just because he's an idiot. You know what I'm saying?
I don't disagree with that, but I mean, in terms of the country watching this television program on Thursday.
So because he didn't interrupt, he did a good job? Nah.
No, because he didn't interrupt. He was still the guy that half the country likes. I mean, it was pretty hard to defend his last performance, even among the people who liked him. I don't think he lost.
I think, I often think incumbents mostly win because since I've been alive, that's what's happened. So I don't, I'm not predicting a Joe Biden win, but I think...
Of the debate?
No, of just the election.
You're not predicting a Joe Biden win for the election?
I don't know how that's going to go, to be honest with you. Mostly incumbents usually get a second term. Oh, Sue's face right now.
I'm chewing my lip.
But listen.
That's the first time I've ever really heard you...
Most incumbents get a second term.
Well, I mean, I know that, but I think this election is unlike anything I've ever... time I've ever...
That's what I'm hoping. But I just feel like, in general, when you're an incumbent, you're running on your record. Okay? Mexico did not build the wall. We do not have the healthcare. We don't have a healthcare plan. Immigration is a mess. The economy is a mess because you mishandled the coronavirus. Education is a mess. That is your record. And you got to speak to that. So I don't care if you can interrupt a million times if you're going to say something. Mm-hmm. The first debate, yeah, sure, he was a jerk. He was a jerk and he still didn't say anything. So now he was a less of a jerk and still didn't say anything.
But what I was saying isn't that you or I have to lower our expectations to choose who we're going to vote for. What I'm saying is none of that matters to the people who are going to vote for somebody like that.
But I think this time, in this election, that's why I don't know how it's going to go, I think he's going to need more than those people.
And he's losing a lot of those people.
And that's what I'm saying. So I think that's why I'm saying he lost.
Okay.
If you go into that debate, who was more likely to get someone who voted for Trump last time to switch to Biden? And who was more likely to get someone that voted for Hillary to switch to Trump? Did Trump move any of us?
No.
We both voted for Hillary, I assume?
Right.
Okay. He didn't move any of us. Now, are there some people who might be thinking, we have the whole Lincoln Project run by Republicans.
That is absolutely something we haven't talked about that we could.
Just that alone tells you who's winning these debates.
I think it'll be interesting when the election concludes on the 3rd or 4th or however, I don't know that we'll have a president when we wake up on the 4th.
I think we will.
I would love it. My Facebook cover art said, vote in numbers so great.
I think
they can't be manipulated.
I think the mail-in ballots, most of them will already be in. Mm-hmm. I think we have 50 million people have already voted. And that number's going to grow because we have all the way till next Saturday.
I hope it continues to grow. I hope there isn't a point where everybody who is going to vote has voted.
There's going to be more people that vote on election day. I'm one of these people that like to go on election day.
I am the same way. I still haven't made my final decision.
Yeah.
I would kind of like to be available at work so any of my employees can go on election day.
I took the day off and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be a lot of turnout, and I think we're going to know. I don't think it's going to be official, because these people know, what counties do what. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking forward to election night. I'll stay up late like I always do.
That's my favorite.
But yeah, I think Trump loses these debates because last time he didn't have to convince other people to get on his side. Because he had such an unlikable person. We can talk about why people didn't like her another time in Hillary Clinton, that he didn't have to do much work. Mm-hmm. Okay? There's some people who didn't like her so much that they would vote for anybody against her. Biden's not the same. Mm-hmm. He's just not. So he had to go into these debates and move the needle somehow. And he did not. So to me, that's a loss.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. We would like to thank everybody for listening to our special episode, our special final presidential debate episode. We will return on Wednesday. We will drop a new episode on Strongly Worded Wednesday. We're going to be talking about taking care of aging parents, that sandwich generation.
Yeah. Right. I can't wait to get into that. I told my mom we were doing that, and she was like, "Are you going to talk about me?" Yes, Mom, I am.
Yeah, I know. It might be the first episode my parents listen to. I don't know. I might have to teach them how to listen to a podcast because they'll be interested to hear. All right, so you can find us on social media. We have a Facebook page, Strongly Worded Podcast. We are Strongly Worded Pod on Instagram and Snapchat. We are Strongly Worded P on Twitter. And maybe we can say it on our next episode, but maybe we'll live tweet a little bit on final election.
Oh, that would be nice. Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for the special edition, Johnny.
Oh yeah.
Thank you, world, for listening. We will see you next time.
The Strongly Finely Worded podcast is written and produced by Johnny Hampton and Sue O'Lear. Music production and vocals by Marshall Max LaMont Hamilton, and cover art by Samantha